kasado na ang lineup ng mga NBA teams sa Eastern Conference Playoffs. Positioning na lang ang pinaglalabanan ngayon ng mga Beasts of the East. Pero sa West, mukhang hanggang sa last playing date pa natin malalaman kung sino ang mga teams na makakasecure ng huling postseason spots. At syempre, andyan din ang mainit na labanan para sa home court edge sa first round of playoffs. And who better to talk to that about than the managing editor of NBA.com Philippines, Adrian Dy. Welcome back to The Score. Down the stretch na, ika nga, I think some teams have 13, 14 games to go.
That's right.
So this is it for those who are making that final push. No? And syempre, the biggest story over in the West is that kind of impossible
shake-up every day.
And the impossible notion that you could ever imagine that the Spurs might not make the playoffs in the first time in 20 years. So let's look at the bottom of the West first and see what's there. You've got right now Minnesota and New Orleans at 40. Actually, Utah, New Orleans, Minnesota have 40 wins each. They hold 6, 7, and 8. The Clippers are there at 37 wins, and then Denver 38. And the Spurs are at 5, but they only have 41 wins.
Right.
So 2 losses.
At the start ng day, actually, they were, I think, 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
Wild.
They had to win kanina against the short-handed Warriors para lang mag-jump up to number 5. So that's how crazy it is talaga in the West. It will change talaga every day until the last day of the regular season.
So all the way down to Clippers and Denver, which right now are 9 and 10,
right,
respectively, 37, 38 wins. You have basically 6 teams that are separated by basically 4 games,
That's
4 games going down the wire. Okay, so what's the scenario here? From which one of these teams you want to talk about in terms of who's healthy, who's not, and how that matters as well? Now, obviously the Spurs have health issues.
They have Kawhi issues.
Yeah,
basically.
Kawhi issues, yeah.
Hanggang ngayon, we really don't know what the situation was. There were reports na last week he could play already, but then biglang it got pushed back again. And then we have that whole situation na Coach Popovich, hindi natin alam if he would actually want Leonard to come back because, you know, he's such a stickler for discipline and all that. Baka sabihin niya na if you come back bigla in the last part of the season, edi you're not really going to fit in with the rest of the offense.
Right.
So there's always that scenario, possibility, that scenario, but then you know the Spurs are always so dangerous nga. Just being the 8th seed, I don't think the Rockets would be happy to play them in the first round matchup. So that aura of being the Spurs will always be there until they finally get eliminated, and so they're going to be fun to watch down the stretch.
All right, in that group you've got Utah naman that has won their last 9 games. That's a crazy, scary team right now. That, you know, that typical argument of are they peaking at the right time? And they seem to be. They're 40-30. How do you like Utah and their chances of sealing this one?
So ever since bumalik si Rudy Gobert from that injury a couple of months ago, they've really been able to coalesce and form into a really good defensive unit, which is what they've really been known to play as. And Donovan Mitchell is a rookie. Now he's definitely in the conversation. It's either 1A or 1B depending on who you ask for Rookie of the Year. For me, it's really interesting that isang rookie is the guy carrying this Jazz offense, and he's been spectacular. Like we really can't put it past him. And so, having him be in the playoffs from the get-go would be such a great boon to his development. Kasi nga, getting those playoff minutes early, they'll be able to develop him down the line. The Jazz will become a perennial playoff team if that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. Well, the number 7 team, the New Orleans Pelicans, had an crazy run amidst their health issues as well. Of course, DeMarcus Cousins is out. Anthony Davis has seemed to have found another gear.
Yes.
So to speak, na kaya pa pala iangat, no? I think there was a point that they were number 4, diba?
Right,
they went up to number 4 in their streak, but they've won their last 6 of their 10 games. They're also at 40-30. What are their chances of pulling this one through?
Well, we have to keep looking at Anthony Davis. How long can he carry this team? Because you look at the Pelicans. We take out Cousins, who's supposed to be the 1B to that team, and they're basically just a bunch of role players plus Drew Holiday. One thing I like about them though is they're one of the top 5 teams when it comes to assist percentage. So they're always finding the open man, and they're always getting the ball to Anthony Davis, which is what you want. He's the star player. He's impossible to guard. He's 7 feet tall, and
I know,
he can
right?
hit
And
shots
he can do all of that
anywhere on the court. So if he's your money man, you make sure you get the ball. And guys like Rondo and the aforementioned Holiday are doing exactly that.
Exactly. All right. Another interesting team that was, how most people probably had a lock as a top 4, top 5 team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're at 40-31. Of course, losing Jimmy Butler for stretch is really painful as well. But what are their chances with the uncertainty of when Butler's coming back and how healthy will he be right away, and to be at peak form come playoff time.
Yung sabi ni Butler is he wants to come back before the playoffs just so para he can recapture that groove. No? What's difficult about it is because you thought na Butler is kind of like training wheels. Na parang they just needed somebody to carry them when it's in the clutch situations. They were terrible in the clutch last season. Pero ngayon, it looks like they've become so dependent on him na when he's not there right now, they're still struggling.
Okay.
The biggest problem, we talked about giving the ball to Anthony Davis. They don't get the ball to Karl Anthony Towns in the stretch. You know, he's a guy who can do a lot of what Davis can do. Pero you have reports that Wiggins is not happy with the amount of shots he's getting, and then they're trying to work back in a former MVP and Derrick Rose in those rotations. So it's really tough, and then you're going to introduce that Butler uncertainty. So parang if there's a team, if you were talking about those teams, if there's a team that might fall out, and maybe the Clippers will overtake them, possibly, I think it might be Minnesota if Butler doesn't come back in time.
Interesting. Okay, amongst those two that are trailing them hot on their heels, the Clippers at 37 wins and Denver 38, but they're both 5-5 in the last 10 games. One has a 3-game losing streak, one has a 2-game losing streak. Who's got a better shot at snatching that 8th seed from Minnesota?
Well, for me, it's the Clippers.
Okay.
Just because ang hirap ng remaining games ng Denver. If I'm not mistaken, they will play the Chicago Bulls, and after that, everyone else is a playoff contender.
Okay.
So parang, you factor pa in the fact na Gary Harris has a knee injury. He's out at least one more week. You know, this is a team that they need to outscore opponents. They're not a very good defensive team, even with Paul Millsap back. And when you take away Harris, that puts a lot of pressure on guys like Jokic and their young point guard Jamal Murray. I don't think they're ready yet to become a playoff team given the way they're playing and given their really tough schedule. It's number 2 actually based on strength of schedule. So that's really difficult for that team.
All right. Well, looking at the nabanggit natin kanina in terms of the teams that are fighting for home court advantage. Of course, lock na yung Houston and Golden State as number 1, number 2. Whether who's 1 or 2, we don't know what kind of a run the Warriors can make if they get their players back on the court.
That's a big if.
That's an issue. But the Blazers and the Thunder are interesting. They're 44 wins and 43 respectively. But the Spurs are right there at 41. Then Utah, New Orleans, they're all like 3 games away lang. But they're on a really good run. Talking about the Blazers, 13 wins in a row.
The longest winning streak right now.
Yun na nga. And then yung isa naman, 8 of the last 10 and winning 6 in a row, si OKC. The rate they're playing, and they pretty much have all the pieces they need right now. Do you think that they're going to they got the momentum to seal the 3rd and 4th seeds?
Barring a return by Leonard, I think those 2 guys will be fighting out for 3 and 4 the rest of the way.
Okay.
What I like siguro lang about, I have to mention about the Thunder is while they do have the most difficult schedule remaining, the Thunder sort of, if you look at the record, medyo they're the type of team na depende kung sino yung kalaban nila, that's how they'll play. Kung malakas yung team, they will play up to that standard. But if medyo mahina, they won't, you know. They're the only team that has 2 victories against the Raptors. They've beaten the Warriors twice. They've beaten Houston once. That's a really impressive resume when you look at it. So parang I think down the stretch, alam nila na they have to play well to maintain that hold on the top 4 seed. I think you'll see them really close out strong. And as for the Blazers, Lillard has been incredible these past couple of games, Dame time and all that. If they can maintain their level of defense, because offense was never a question with them. It's always about their defensive intensity. And so if they can keep that up, I think they'll stay in the top 4.
All right. Very interesting to see. It's been a while since we had the Blazers in the top 4. It should be really fun to see them possibly make the second round and make some noise. Okay. Doon naman sa East, pasadahan natin, as you said, the top 8 are locked pretty much. Kasi ang layo ng gap ng number 8 Milwaukee, that's at 37 wins, and Detroit at 31 wins.
They've really fallen off.
And with the way Detroit's been playing, they've been playing bad. They've lost 3 of their, they're 3-7, in the last 10 games. So, but the interesting thing here is that, as everybody had thought that it should have been a Cleveland, conference to lose.
Right.
They're obviously losing too many games. That they're not going to be, probably going to be number 2 seed. Mukhang wala silang habol sa Boston. Malabo na yan because there's a 6-game lead. But looking at that, do you see the possibility of Cleveland even dipping lower? Because they're at 41 wins. Indiana at 41. Washington 40. Philly at 39. Miami 38. They can even go down as 8th or 9th.
I don't think.
Hindi naman siguro, no? Especially since Kevin Love came back. But with Ty Lue out for a while, we don't know what's going to be there. It's supposedly health issues, but sometimes it starts there. What's it looking like for the Cavs?
Well, the Cavs in the Eastern Conference, yung thing talaga for them is they have the ability, now that Love is back, to outscore any opponent in the East. I think that's obvious when you look at their lineup. The question always for them has been defense. They've never been able to really stop anyone. Pero nga, in the East, that hasn't been that doesn't really matter because they can put up more firepower compared to the other East teams.
Yep.
So I think they'll stick there somewhere in the 3 to 4 range.
Okay.
The big X factor for me is when is John Wall coming back. He's another guy na he wants to come back before the start of the playoffs para he can get those those minutes to re-gel with his teammates. We know Bradley Beal has been able to carry the Wizards somewhat these past couple of games. So parang there's that dynamic of before these past couple of playoff runs, Beal and Wall were kind of not really chummy with each other. Let's just say that. So parang how Wall comes back and if he says team ko na to ulit, that might be the cause for concern. But I think that Indiana, we've been underrating Indiana ever since the start of the season.
But Victor Oladipo had other plans.
Exactly. So for me, I think we can slot Indiana in there at number 3, Cavs at number 4, and then the Wizards at number 5, and then barring any sudden collapses, I think that's how it will play out for the rest of the way.
Although Philly has won 7 of the last 10, they're 6 at 39 wins. Do you see them having enough gas still to make a run to possibly get in the top 4?
Well, Simmons didn't play last season, and B didn't play for a lot of games last season. They have they have fresh legs comparatively.
Arguably.
Well, the thing with the 76ers is that they haven't been there. You compare it to the other teams, even with the Pacers, you can at least say Oladipo was there as a member of the Thunder.
Right.
So they're inexperienced. What may be the X factor for them is guys like JJ Redick, Marco Bellinelli, Ersan Ilyasova. Their shooters are all veteran guys, and they made a concentrated effort to surround Simmons, who's a magnificent passer, and Embiid, who draws so many double teams with those knockdown shooters.
Exactly.
So if those guys get hot in the end of the regular season or even in the playoffs, they're a deadly team. I would not want to play them in the first round.
We'll see. Well, it should be a lot of fun to see these teams go down the wire as they all race for playoff positioning and for survival as well for the others. AIDS, maraming salamat. Thank you.
For more sports updates, keep watching The Score. And don't forget to subscribe.